Hi, I'm continuing in this video our discussion about geologic time. To better demonstrate the idea of relative age and superposition, I've got a diagram here in our slides. At site 1, if we assume that each one of these columns of rock here, each one of these representing different layers of rock, we assume these are 3 different locations. So if we have 3 different locations that scientists are digging up, we can take a look at, let's take a look at, let's call this Site 1. We have layers D, C, B, and A. We know that layer A is the oldest of these 4 layers. Layer A must have been put down first, if these are sedimentary layers. Layer A had to have been there first, so then these other layers could be piled on top. That means if it was there first, then it is the oldest layer. If the oldest layers are always at the bottom. There are some rare instances where that doesn't happen, but again, undisturbed layers, that will be the case. For our discussion, we'll assume that's true. Layer B would be the next oldest one. Okay. Layer C would have to be laid down on top of layer B, so therefore it would be the third oldest, or we could also say that it is older than D, but younger than layer B. And then lastly, we have layer D. It's at the very top, so that means it was the last one to be laid down, so it's the new kid on the block, and that one would be our youngest one. Now, I'm comparing these ages relatively. We don't know how old layer B is, but we can say that layer B is older than layer C, but younger than layer A. And we don't know how old layer C is, but we know that it is older than layer D. It's older because it's underneath it, but it's also younger than layers A and B. We know it's younger because it's on top of those 2 layers. Okay. A couple other things we can note here using these diagrams. Again, using kind of these different colors and patterns here, try to demonstrate the layers. And you'll notice that this layer looks similar to this layer over here, layer E, and layer I over at this location. And again, similar pattern, noticing the red diagonals, triangles, or I'm sorry, diamonds, kind of being found in all those locations. You'll notice here that this yellow layer, CG, is not present over here. Okay, it's missing. Okay. Then you'll notice that layer D, H, and we didn't give this a name over here. We say that's HI. We'll call this J. We'll call that one K. You'll notice that that one is again matching up with the locations here. So these may be many miles apart, maybe even hundreds of miles apart, or thousands of miles apart. But if we see similar characteristics, again, I've kind of tried to make a simplified version here using color and kind of some different designs. We would assume that those would be the same layer that spread across a large area. Now, that means then if this yellow layer is missing from this Site 3, there must have been something that happened in between these 2 layers. Okay, this layer was probably laid down at Site 3, but maybe there was some erosion or some type of force, likely an erosion force then, that kind of wore that layer away before this layer came along. Okay. So an important thing to note here is, again, we're talking about relative age and using the law of superposition. Youngest on top, oldest on the bottom. If we if we start to find fossils in these different layers, and if we're able to identify the age of some of these fossils in these, at say Site 1, if we can identify fossils that are 10 million years old in layer D, we can then conclude that that layer is about 10 million years old. We could also conclude that this layer, Site 2, and this layer here would also be about the same age. And if we went further down and let's say we found some fossils let's say we found fossils over here, layer F at Site 2. If we found these fossils to be, let's say, 200 million years old, we could conclude then that the rock surrounding it was about 200 million years old, and that these layers, these kind of corresponding or matching layers, would also be about the same age. And this is kind of how paleontologists can do this, using different fossils and rock layers from different locations, but still using the clues to kind of match them up.